Settling is not an option for me. Everything I desire is already mine. What if you can have it all? Because every day is for the girls.
Hello. Welcome back to another episode of For the Girls. I'm your host, Victoria Alario. And today we have an amazing conversation with a fabulous guest, Hannah Huante. She's a content creator. She's the host of How I See a podcast. She's also the founder of Unapologetic Strategies, which is a social media agency. And let me just tell you, girls, she is unapologetic in every way, and we love it. We talk about it a lot in this conversation. This conversation is just honestly so insightful, and I already know it's going to be so impactful on you girls. We talk all things mental health, business, authenticity, content creation, and we also dive into a Dear Victoria submission on jealousy and friendships that you do not want to miss. So let's not waste any more time. Let's get right into the episode. Okay, everyone, please welcome today's guest, Hannah Huante. I am so excited to have you on. Please introduce yourself to the girls.
Oh my gosh. Hi. Thank you for having me on. I'm so excited, especially to talk to your community. I feel like the name, now that I've interviewed you, I know, but like just the name, I knew. I'm like, this girl's the real deal. Like she's for the girls. So hi, everyone. I'm Hannah. I go by Han. I am a content creator, podcaster of How I See It, which you'll hear Victoria's episode there as well. Hers was like amazing. And then I'm also a founder of my company, Unapologetic Strategies, and we're a social media agency based in San Diego.
Wow, you're jack of all trades.
I know, right? Like just apparently I'm bored with life, so and I need to like do all of these crazy things.
It's amazing. So when did you start doing that?
Recently, like 2 years ago, like you literally almost 2 years ago. It was something that I felt like because I've been doing content creation for so long now.
Yeah.
For I think it's gonna go on like 7 or 8 years. I started in kind of like before the era of like way before the era of TikTok and like before people were actually like showing up in a real way online. So I like started back then, started talking about like fashion and mental health. And then about 2 years ago, I was like, like I can pay my bills, I can pay my rent. This is cool. I love being a full time creator, but I don't know. I felt like I had more to offer. And I don't think women are good at this, or maybe we feel like we need to be humble. But for me, I was like, I'm not good with making this much money. I want more money. I want to like
Right.
be more successful. I want to like build more and help more people. And so I started the agency kind of just when people kept asking me for help. And I was like, okay, let's do it. Let's add something.
Yeah. Well, this is so like Han just said, she interviewed me as well. And when we kind of talked about with my work, it's same thing for you. Like when you have a natural talent, like just a natural gift, like you gotta lean into it. And you really did like hit the nail on the head when you just said like, sometimes women hold back from those things because like we feel like we need to be more humble. Sometimes it's seen as like, oh, you don't want to do too many things, but then you'll talk to a guy and he has like 10 different businesses and it's like, wait, why do we need to dial back? But I love that. It's like you have this, it's a very like feminine energy thing. You have this innate talent that you leaned into, and which is really just like in the embodiment of trusting your own
Oh,
skills.
thank you. I appreciate you saying that. Yeah, I think to your point, like, I think also like women are scared to like talk about the fact that they want to make more money. Like, it's almost like faux pas to say, like, well, I want to make more money. And like, to your point, men aren't scared to say that.
Yeah.
And for some reason, women are viewed as like, I don't know, egotistical or like not humble or like power hungry or money
Too
hungry.
masculine.
Too masculine. Yeah, it's not about that. And also, I think like trusting, to your point of like trusting kind of like your intuition or like leaning into your like natural talents. Like for me, like I really appreciate you saying that. But I think for me, like it wasn't that easy at first. I think I
Mhm.
had this like ego death almost about it because for me, I was like, no, my dream is to just be a content creator, just have my podcast and be able to continue to grow that to a point where like I don't have to do anything else. And I think I was there, but again, like there was this juxtaposition happening because I was like, okay, I'm making good money, but I want to be making great money. Yet I'm unwilling to like move my dream and vision because of why? Because I'm not the star of the show if I do something else, because I'm not the center of attention. Or so there was kind of like this ego death that needed to happen. Like you're not letting go of your dream by evolving and doing something else and trusting your intuition and like going down a different path and adding something else. Like it just makes you more multidimensional.
Oh my God. It is, you're speaking to my soul. It's so true because I think we all get on that ego trip of like, I just want to be a content creator. If anyone's like really on TikTok right now, have you seen like the whole drama that's going on about like the New York City influencers? Someone called them
Yes.
boring. I'm like, not for nothing. I would love to be boring for a living. Like I mean, like if that's the case, if they're super boring but they're all pulling in at like seven figures, like I'm so down. Like that's perfectly fine. So it's like there is that like, back and forth of like I would love to just be able to do that. But then at the same time, we also have to be real with ourselves and be like, okay, but I'm not there. I'm not in that place. So that's not my reality. I'm not going to make myself go broke over pretending that that's my reality. We have other things that we need, that we can and should and need to lean into so that yeah, we can actually make a decent living for ourselves while still doing what we love to do.
Yeah, I think I thought that it was going to like impact like my vision for my life. LOL, like me trying to control like where my future is going, like us all. But like I think like it was one of those things where it's like, no, I'm making a good income. Like I don't need to start something else. Like I like if it has nothing to do with like my brand and my business, like why would I start something else? But then that sounds so dumb when you're literally looking at it and you're like, oh my God, I could double my income and go into like a
Mhm.
different bracket just by doing something else and like removing my ego for a second. And I talked about this like when you came on the podcast, like entrepreneurship, like building out, there's like a mental health journey
Yeah.
involved with that as well. And so I think like it was me trying to break down like why do I like only have to do this, or like why does my future have to look exactly the way that I think it should look. And now 2 years later I'm like, oh my God, like the partnerships have never been better on the content creator side. And I think it's because I like relinquished control a little bit and like started leaning into like something else. I found another passion of mine, which I didn't know I was going to have, which is like helping others grow and like building out hospitality projects here in San Diego. Like makes me it splits up my day a little bit, so I'm not so focused on like fashion and mental health all the time. And I don't know, it to my point earlier, like it makes you multidimensional. I think it challenges you. And I don't know, the New York influencer boring thing, like I feel like I could go on a rant about that because I just like don't appreciate anyone who like talks shit on other people
It's
online.
so true.
Well, especially someone who had like these girls have like millions of followers and they're like they're boring. I'm like, well, there's a over million population that doesn't find them to be boring, but everyone has their own opinion. But it's
It's so
interesting.
true. I first of all agree. Just in general, like for put even that thing aside, like whenever those videos come across where people just feel so entitled to sharing, and like that's always the back, like the comment back is always like, "I'm entitled to my opinion." Of course, aren't we all? I think that that means you're entitled to talk shit about people online? No. Like just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do something. Like you're just never gonna catch me online talking shit about someone. Like
No.
there's no, you could have the opinion, it's like whatever, but I don't know. And the way that they defend themselves to me is just like it's so childish. Like, oh well, I could think this, and you don't have to be so affected. Clearly, you care so much to comment. You're talking about me. Like that doesn't mean that I necessarily care, but
Yeah.
I think I have a right to comment when you're talking about me. Like,
Yeah.
oh my god,
I
it's
need to
just
like chill a little bit because I feel like I'm so existential all the time and think so deeply about everything. I was talking with my girlfriend last night and she was like, I think we just need to stop thinking so deeply because the way I viewed that story, this whole thing that I've been watching on TikTok is like I'm looking at the people talking shit and making these videos and I'm like, what kind of like deep rooted like issue is this? Like what about her ego is like and it's been multiple people now. I'm like, what about them is like
Yeah.
making it like so offensive to them that people are doing well by doing something they think is boring. And then on the other side, I'm like, now these like influencers are jumping in to defend themselves. And I'm like, babe, why do you feel you need to even jump in and
Yeah.
defend yourself at this point? Like,
I
what's
know it's
going
very
on there?
layered. It's
I
very
know. And I get
layered.
it, to your point. Like, people are talking shit about you. You want to say something. But like, it's funny because I'm sitting here watching this, like, damn, like everyone's like childhood shit is showing right now.
Your childhood trauma is showing, babe.
Yeah, that's so funny.
Well, okay, speaking of, that's actually a perfect segue because like you just said, your agency is called Unapologetic Strategies, and unapologetic is just like a word that's it's very present in your work. I listen to your podcast, I looked at your content, and that's like one of your most common sayings is about being unapologetically you. So I want to know, with that, like you're unapologetic personally and professionally, like just like well-rounded in your life, what was your journey to get there? What was your experience like? Because you mentioned obviously mental health, you mentioned traumas coming up, all different ego things. Like, how did you get to this place of now being able to be unapologetically you in all facets of life?
Oh my gosh, what a question. I feel like unapologetic has like evolved, like I think with me and like through my own healing as well. And I feel like it was only right when I started the agency 2 years ago to like just call it unapologetic strategies
Mhm.
because it's how I live my life now. And I really am under the belief that like when we're fully pursuing more, like when we're doing the hard work, when we're looking in the mirror, whether that's when we're creating our business or when we're pursuing like the mental health healing journey or like when we're looking at childhood shit, like when we really look in the mirror and we're committed to like pursuing more in that way, I think we can start to become our unapologetic self because I think true healing is just becoming aligned like with ourselves, our deep authentic self. And I think for a while like I was so incredibly depressed and anxious my entire life. I thought that that was going to be my story forever. I think I had really truly continued to rewrite this narrative that like I was never going to not feel depressed or anxious. And I can sit here and say like that didn't start with me. Like I went through, I had a very chaotic childhood. I grew up with like an emotionally abusive parent. Like I can go off and name all these things, but I think at the end of the day, like I was at a point where I was an adult and I was like, I am like perpetuating this story. Like it may have not started with me, but I'm now perpetuating it, like perpetuating my own misery. And I think that's like a really painful pill to swallow. And a lot of people who are in a place of deep depression and anxiety don't like to hear that, because it's essentially saying like we're having a victim mindset. And I do believe
Yeah.
that's where I was, and I think a lot of us are if we're honest with ourselves. And again, it's not that your feelings aren't valid. It's just that, are we going to continue the narrative or are we going to make some changes? So I think for me, it started there. And I started going to like therapy, like right at the end of college. And simultaneously, I was like, I love fashion. I love sharing outfits. And like, no one is talking about, I don't know, like deep shit, like depression and anxiety. And I wanted to inspire people. I think because at a young age, I felt like I couldn't be like unapologetically myself. Like I felt like I couldn't be seen. I was like, I want to like instill confidence in people to do that. Like
Mhm.
as I kind of go on that journey to do it for myself. And at this point, like this was like the Alexis Rien time of Instagram. No shade to her, but like it was like the blonde Australian models, like no one looked like me. No one was talking about like their depression. Like it was all like Jay Alvarez, Alexis Rian, beautiful Australian model girls. So I was like, I'm doing it. So I built the community, simultaneously kind of sharing like my own healing journey and going to therapy. And like the community just built from there. And I think I really turned my life around like mentally, and it reflected outward and like all my external when like turning it in like content creation into a full-time career, and then like starting the podcast and being able to like turn my story into something where we could all listen and be inspired by other people's stories. And I think that's truly what being unapologetic to me is, I guess, is learning and living and continuing to evolve. And I think unapologetic can be taken as like this disrespectful thing. And I don't mean it that way. I think being unapologetic and living unapologetically is really, like I said, just like living an aligned, healthy life where we're not scared to like call ourselves out on our own shit.
Yeah. It's just being as authentic as you can possibly be. Um, like you just said, like you started building this community by sharing the truth, by being authentic, by sharing your struggles, your highs and your lows. Everyone's always like, social media is a highlight reel, so like don't believe what you see. And I'm somebody who always like I guess yes, there's truth in that, but I do think that two different things can be true at the same time. Like, yeah, for most people maybe like they are sharing their highlight reel, but I don't think that that means that you should go into social media thinking that like everything you see is fake and nothing is real. Like I always hate that, and I feel like that's people's, it kind of like you just mentioned about a victim mentality. I do find that there's a victim mentality in that belief of like, it's okay, I feel better about myself because even though she's posting that she's super happy, I don't believe that she's happy because there's always problems behind that, and it's just like I'm not into that. So with that being said, similarly, I've always been the type of person who like just shared, my life, whether it was good or bad. And so you start to build a community on that authenticity. So I want to ask you about that in particular, because as someone who not only is a content creator yourself, but has a social media agency, I'm sure that through, and you're also just a deep thinker and observer in general. So, like, I'm
Tortured.
sure through being on social media, you see such a lack of authenticity on a daily basis. There are millions of people out there trying to build a social media presence. They want to be an influencer. So they try to be like Alex Earl, or they try to be like the New York City influencers. Like they're trying to be like so many other people and duplicating so many other people's content because it went viral for that person. But then ultimately it doesn't land for them, because at the end of the day, like authenticity is what lands. So you're never going to get ahead as a creator by trying to be like somebody else. Just because it
Hmm.
worked for them doesn't mean that their content's going to work for you. And so, with that being said, I would love for you to share not only your insight into like that in general, but also just like any advice that you have for the girls who find themselves struggling with this, who do want to be a content creator, but like can't tap into that unapologetic, authentic self, really.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my God, I have so much to say about this. I think like
Go for it.
it's
Say it
always
all.
like 0 to 100, right? Like going to the
Hmm.
beginning of what you just said, like people are either like, oh my God, she's too real or she's fake, or like not enough people are being real, not enough people are like actually being aesthetic. You can never please anyone or everyone, I guess. And so I think for me, like I always led with like being authentic and like 100% showing up as like who I am. I take it like as a compliment when people meet me and they're like, oh, you're exactly the same. And again, let's not get it twisted. Like I'm not asking you to like share every single nitty gritty of like your personal life. Like I think there's a misconception with like authenticity and vulnerability, meaning that you have to share every single detail about your life. There's a way to like show up and like be your authentic self and like be vulnerable without like, I don't know, if you want to protect parts of your personal life. Like I do that every single day on the
Right.
podcast, on my socials, and there are still a chunk of my life that like people do not know about, but I think it's all about making people feel, and that was always the mission with How Han Sees It, like especially as someone who used to be very very mentally unwell. I want people to feel not alone. I want people to feel like they have
Hmm.
someone who sees them and who's talking about the real shit. Um but I think that to your point, people will be like, oh, like that's a for sure everything. Or no, she's being inauthentic. And I think the reason why I've never gotten the like, I feel personally that I've never gotten comments or anything about people being like, she's inauthentic or I don't believe it or whatever, is because it's like an energy you feel from people. Like, I think like we can all look at our like feeds and like the people we follow or the people who randomly do well that are like super almost too niche, where you're like, how is this person like so big? And I think it's because there's this like authentic energy that people gravitate towards. Like it's not that you're sharing everything or that you're putting like all your trauma and all everything on the line. Like you don't have to like do what I do and talk about the deep
Right.
traumatic shit to be authentic online. I think it's that people can feel through a screen when you truly mean what you say, when you're showing up in an authentic way, and they gravitate towards that. And I think it's something that I imply with clients as well to their socials, because like the clients we have like are not like these super deep mental health type clients. Like the clients that I focus on right now honestly have been hospitality, like restaurants. And like we just did a shoot, like a brunch shoot the other day for someone, and I just truly think like implementing authenticity even to that can be felt, because like the reason you choose to go to a place is because you feel something when you see it online, like you want to go, you're gravitated. So I think like authenticity is really just about making people feel something, and like being
Yeah.
unapologetic is about making people feel something. And if you feel something online from someone, I think like you don't really investigate too much. Like you're just like, oh, like she makes me feel good, therefore I'm going to follow her.
Yeah. Well, that's why like storytelling content does so well when it's like, part one, part two, part three, like you get to like the good part of the story and you keep them hanging and then people want more. Like the key to building the audience, selling a product, anything through social media is evoking emotion within someone, or even the key to virality. Like forget even selling or building your dream audience. Like all these girls just want to go viral. You want a viral video, make people angry. That's why they say like say something controversial. Like once you start evoking emotion in people, good or bad, that's when your content will hit, it'll land. And like I think when people keep it just way too surface level, and that does not mean that you have to share every deep crevice of your
Yeah.
life, but when they keep it way too surface level, come, shopping with me, whatever. Like, I don't know, I'm just making something up. Like, and, it's just, you're not really resonating with anybody. I
Yeah.
mean,
Or you're trying to be someone else. Like, I think
yeah,
it's really obvious when people are trying to be something else,
yeah,
or even when they're just trying to go viral. Like, you
yeah,
can kind of tell. Like, sometimes it's like too ridiculous where you're
yeah,
just like, this is dumb. Like, you're just trying to create a viral video. And like, maybe it hits a million like likes or
yeah,
whatever, or like a million views, but like, no one's going to stay. You're not going to build community that way unless
yeah.
it's authentic.
Yeah, you gotta just have integrity at some point. There has to be the line between like, getting out there and posting your stuff, but also having integrity behind what you're doing.
I think a lot of content creators too, like, or people trying to be, like, it's weird to me that like so many people, and I get it, it's just like the time we're in, but it's weird to me that like there are like young kids now being like, I want to be a content creator, like as my job when I get older. And it's no shade. I think it's more like I really pursued doing this out of like a really deep core, like wound that's like now turned into like a mission. Like
Hmm.
I didn't feel seen. Like I really didn't. I felt like no one was talking about depression and anxiety in the way I wanted to. And like that is what leads, like what I lead with every single day and with every piece of content, even my fashion content. Like I am thinking in my head, like I feel still sometimes, but I think it's gotten better. But like I felt so insecure in my skin and in my body. And like, well, how can I show up to this styling video in a way that makes people feel like they should feel this confident as they're
Yeah.
getting ready? Like there's always that like deep mission like piece in the back of my head when I'm creating content. And I feel like this world has now turned into, I don't know, like I just want to be famous. I just want to be a content creator so I don't have to like do
People just
hard
want to make
work.
money online. Like they just want to
Yeah,
not go back to work. And like, I don't think that's enough of a why. Like you have to have that deeper mission, that bigger why, like a problem solving situation, and not
totally.
just like, I'm doing this just because it sounds like the dream. Like,
Yeah, and then they start doing it and they're like, "Fuck, this actually is really hard." I didn't.
Oh, I actually have to post every single day, 10,000 times a day. Like, wait, I have to do that.
Yeah. I have to
Um,
be my own like HR and contract person and email person and photographer and
yeah,
editor.
yeah, yep, it's true. Um, and that it you brings up a really good point, because I think that all of these things are a big reason why a lot of girls don't actually end up executing. They don't actually end up doing it because they don't have a big enough mission or a big enough purpose as to why they want to do it. So then when they see that there actually is consistency and uncomfortability and all of this stuff that require that this kind of job requires, they're not willing to invest in it. Or there's just like a fear in general. There's the fear around taking action, because taking action will then lead to judgment from others, them having to hold themselves accountable. It's like making an announcement, I'm going to do something, and then you don't do it. Like, it's like once you start,
Totally.
you kind of have to keep going. Um, with that being said, we talked about mental health a bunch, and I know it's important to you personally, which we're going to get into the personal side of it after, but I want to lean more into the professional side of it. I do think that a lot of the fears and holding themselves back from executing does have to do with a mental health and a connection between mental health and executing. So, what would you say is that correlation between mental health and executing in business and being successful in what you want to do?
Yeah. I mean, oh my gosh, the execution piece is really, oh, it's something I feel really passionate about talking about because I do feel like there's this weird misconception that, like, I don't know, that like fear is going to go away before you're like, and then you'll know that it's time to execute.
Mm,
Like, I feel like I watch a lot of my girlfriends and, like, even just, like, a lot of people in my circle, or even I'll talk with people who, like, really want to start their own companies or become a content creator or start a podcast or whatever, and there's always this, like, overly thought out plan of, like, what they wanna do and, like, how they're gonna do it, but then you're, like, meeting up with them, like, every so often and, like, nothing has changed, and they're
right.
still kind of, like, mulling over the, like, what could go wrong, and like and you know, and I think it's normal to, like, be intimidated and fearful, but I think there's this really weird misconception that, like, I'm not supposed to be afraid when I start. Like, that's what is making, like, it doesn't feel good, therefore, like, I shouldn't execute yet. And I
Mm.
think people don't understand that, like, fear is never going to go away, like, ever. You just get really used to it, like living in your car. Like, I always say, like, you can't let it be the driver, but you have to, like, accept the fact that, like, she's always going to be a passenger in the car. And I think that the more you, like, mull over, the harder it gets. Same way, like, the longer you, like, take to, like, look yourself in the mirror and deal with your trauma, the harder it's gonna get to rewire the narratives. Like, I think it's the same thing. And I think for me, like, I've gotten really good, and I think it's getting good at something just takes repetition, obviously, at, like, not thinking too much on the fear. And I have, like, little, like, practices I do, but really I think it's this mental shift of understanding that, like, the uncomfortable is never going to go away. You have to, like, make uncomfortable choices and sit in uncomfortability to reach real comfortability.
Oh, there's the word. Uncomfortability. I love it. So, girls listening, I'm gonna talk about this with her right now. But if you did not listen to Hand's interview with me, we talked a lot about this uncomfortability. And like I actually went on a tangent about how much I love hearing her say it. So
I know.
we gotta bring it over here for a sec. Say that part. I want you to elaborate on that. Say that again
Okay.
about how essentially, in other words, what you're saying is that like discomfort is a prerequisite to true comfort in your life. So
Yeah.
explain and elaborate on that.
It's required. I mean, to do anything. I think, like, so I say a lot on the podcast. It's I want to say, I don't want to say it's become like a podcast cliche. I feel like my friends probably hate it, but it's the truth. Like, you have to get uncomfortable for the sake of real comfortability. And I think that that's the truth in everything. In relationships, when you're dating, when pursuing a business, when working through your own shit, like, it's going to feel incredibly foreign, like foreign and uncomfortable and unnatural to do the healthy thing when you're, like, working on, like, your attachment style in relationships. Like, you're gonna want, the natural thing to do is to, like, text him long paragraphs if you're an anxiously attached person,
Mhm.
but, like, you know deep down that, like, that is not the healthy thing to do, and that if you want the actual desire of your heart, which is to be in, like, a secure relationship, you cannot do that, right? But the idea of, like, not doing the thing we're so used to feels so incredibly foreign. And I think that keeps people stuck. It, like, really stuck, because they're like, why? Well, if I'm supposed to be doing that, like, if that's the true thing I'm supposed to do, if that's the healthy thing I'm supposed to do, then therefore it shouldn't feel this hard. And, like, we can say in just a conversation like this, like, oh, you have to do the hard things. Like, you have to get uncomfortable. But when in practice, people do not accept that. And I think it's the same thing with, like, executing. It's like people are like, oh, I really want to start this company, or I really want to, like, start creating, or whatever your dream is. And they're like, but and then they like feel this deep, intense like fear and intimidation and imposter syndrome, which are all human things. We've just put like a lot of charge on them because they feel really intense. And instead of like just continuing through and acknowledging that it's normal and that we still need to like execute anyway, or we still need to like say the healthy thing anyway, or we need to communicate, or we need to get vulnerable, even though it feels like completely unnatural, we don't. We wait for those feelings to go away, and then they never do. And then we're confused why we're apathetic, why we're stuck, why things aren't moving forward. And it's this like horrible perpetuating cycle.
Okay, tell me, I want to back up. What sort of like advice or practices would you have in place for someone who does feel stuck? Like what tangibly, I get what you're saying. Like, okay, the advice would be make the hard decision, do the hard thing. But what are like the tangible practices that somebody can just start doing?
Yeah, I think for like business stuff in particular, I mean, I do this with like relationship stuff now
Mhm.
too, but
I
I
think
think
it's
like
all like one and the same. It all
it is. I
intertwines.
think it's easier to do for yourself first before it starts impacting like a romantic relationship. Like we talked about this, romantic stuff is just so much more vulnerable, but so
Mhm.
is this other stuff. But I think for like business wise, like, or like executing an idea or a change, like I obviously like feel fear still. Like I'm a human. So like a perfect example is like the first time we took on a hospitality client for the agency. I've never worked in a restaurant before. Like I love to indulge in restaurants. Like I know the vibe. Like I've created content for 8 years, but I've never actually like from scratch opened with a restaurant and did the whole like marketing and social side to it. So I was on the phone with the like potential client at the time, client now, and they were like, okay, like send the portfolio of everything you've done for other hospitality projects, and we'll decide. And like, we're pretty sure we're going to sign, whatever. We get off the phone, and I'm just like, I'll never forget. I was sitting on my couch. It was like a Friday night. And I was like, oh my God, like I have never done this before. I don't have a restaurant portfolio I can like send to them. And I went on the spiral, like all the things like, am I
Right.
good enough? Am I talented enough? Can I do this? Do I have the smarts? Am I like taking on something I can't? Am I qualified? Like all of the lists of the things that pop up that are normal that stop us from like moving forward. So what I do is like that spiral starts to start. And instead of like shoving it down and like avoiding it, because I think sometimes when we do that, it can just muster and like continue to muster. I set an alarm whenever I'm feeling this way for 10 minutes. I call it like the fear reset method. I've like coined it now because I've talked about it so much. And I literally just set a timer of 10 minutes on my phone, and I let myself like spiral for just 10 minutes. Like I go through the whole like maze in my head of like, well, what if this happens? And what if this happens? And what if this happens? And right when the timer goes off, I just, I force myself to get up and like move on and like start executing. And I think there's like this weird, like, I don't know the science, it just works for me. I think like there's this mental shift that happens when you just like, you let yourself go there. And then when you hear that ring, it's like, okay, you're done and you need to get up. And I got up and I went to my favorite restaurant and I shot content. And then I went to another restaurant and I shot content. And the next day I woke up and went to a breakfast spot and shot content. And then I put the portfolio together, sent it to them, and we signed contract. And it's been great. It's been so, so great. But
Wow.
I think like it works. Or like, let's say you have to have a vulnerable conversation with a significant other. I have to share something personal, or I have to have a conversation about something that's bothering me. Like that was really hard for me for a really long time to like actually have a conversation with like a significant other about like something that wasn't being met, like a need not being met. I feel like I had a wound of like, my feelings aren't valid and like they're going to get mad at me if I share that my feelings are hurt. And instead of like bottling it up because I saw how it was impacting like every single one of my relationships, I decided, okay, I'm going to start being honest. I'm going to start being vulnerable, but this feels foreign. This feels awful. I literally feel like I'm crawling in my skin. Setting the timer. I'm going to let myself feel this way for 10 minutes. When it goes off, you got to do the hard thing. You just got to do it. So that's become like a practice for me. And I do think it works. It's hard.
Yeah.
Still hard.
It's like forcing yourself, giving yourself no other option, giving yourself no choice, because that's the thing, like everything in life is a choice. So you could either choose to just, if it were somebody who, not like you, somebody who got that portfolio, that email requesting the portfolio, and they just didn't have one, they probably would just let it go and never answer the email again and be like, well, I have nothing to send them. But your fear reset situation like gives you that time to like get it all out of your system, and then it forces you to become a problem solver. And that's like
Yeah.
what ultimately what I heard in that the underlying thing was you solve your problems. And I think that's a very tangible thing because so many people have no problem creating problems for every solution, but they have a problem. They have a hard time creating solutions for every problem.
Yeah, well,
So,
and I think this ties back to the mental health stuff too. Like
yeah.
a lot of like victimhood, and I hate to say it like that. I don't mean it like
Yeah.
that, but it's just the truth. This like this place of like victimhood, whether you
Yeah.
got yourself there yourself or someone it was someone else's fault and now you're there, is like the core of it is like the belief that there's like something outside of me that's going to like get me out of here, or that like because of outside things I'm here and I'm never going to be able to get out. And I think like a
Yeah.
huge part about like being on a like becoming unapologetic or like really working on yourself and being honest and having like the really hard conversations with yourself, getting uncomfortable for the sake of real comfortability, is really about acknowledging that like you are the only one, you're the only one that can get yourself out, solve the problem, or like change your life. No one
Yeah.
else. And
Yeah.
and that's hard. That's like a lot of response. I mean, it's intimidating responsibility, but I think if we look at it differently, it's actually really empowering to know that like you can actually be the one to like execute, create the portfolio, solve a problem, like be in a relationship, get out of a depressive episode, like with things like this fear reset, or with things like, I think another one for me is like actually like in my head intellectualizing like what my choices are. I
Mm.
think you mentioned like choices, like the idea of choices and how like empowering it is to know we have choices. Sometimes choices can intimidate people, but I think it's really empowering to know like when something triggers me, like I have ABC. Like A is like unhealed Hannah. I can like go off. Like can get defensive. I'm like, why are they like personally attacking me by breathing the wrong way? Like A is like my natural instinct. B is like I can run. Like we can always run. We can be avoidant. Or C, I know the healthy thing I'm supposed to do. It doesn't feel good, but I know what I have to do. And if I do that, I'll probably get like the long-term desire I want. Therefore, more comfortability. So am I going to have, I guess, the perseverance to keep picking that one? And I'm not perfect, but I think it helps to like look out your options.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad that you brought that up because that was a question that I had for you. When I was listening to your podcast, I heard you talking about this ABC method, and it makes it sound so simple. It's like option A, just do the thing I've always done so I get what I always got,
It's
or,
not simple.
right, exactly. Or C, I want it's like the saying that's like if nothing changes, nothing changes. So if I want change, then these are things that I got to do because I have to do what I've never done to get new results. So I think that's clearly it's very effective for you. Is that I don't know if these go hand in hand because since we're talking about your personal mental health journey, I want to hear about how something that you mentioned is that you were able to get to a place in life where you were able to remove depression and anxiety from your identity. It does not mean that it's a miracle, I'm healed, I no longer have, these things, but it is to say that they no longer control you. They are not who you identify yourself with. So, was that ABC method your way of getting there, or how did you get to that place?
I think the ABC method is like something that looking back at the last like 4 years, 5 years of my own like like healing journey, I'd call it, cuz like I started therapy in like god, like 2020, 2019. So it's like almost 6 years now, and then like have been really nonstop committed since then. I think the ABC method is like a tangible way to look at the mental process over the last few years of like the work it actually takes to like rewire your thoughts and break down things that feel like they're a part of who you are. And I think that the ABC method has just become an easy way for me to talk about like the mental process of it all, but it's definitely not fucking easy. It is really, really hard. And I think like it started as something where we can like for me. Like I can look at my life and be like very aware. Like I'm very depressed, I'm very anxious, and like the way I'm treating others, the way I'm acting in relationships, like my whole life is a shit show. Like it can't just be everybody else. So like what can I do to start working through this stuff? I think half of it was like we talked about, like removing depression and anxiety as a part of my identity. I think really started with first looking in the mirror, acknowledging that I was perpetuating my own misery, being able to like talk about the things that had happened when I was younger. Because I think deep down, like depression and anxiety is like a result of violating our conscience like so much, like things that are just going against our authenticity. And sometimes those things aren't choices. Like again, trauma happens to us and that's like a violation of what's supposed to happen or like our authenticity or our true conscience. But it gets to a point where there's like so many violations and we're living in this like space of all these like false narratives because of maybe things that have happened to us that are violating actually who we are like at a core level. So I think for me, it was like I believed that I was like never going to be happy, that I was never going to have peace, that like my life was just always going to be miserable, to be honest. And so I think it was first acknowledging that like those things are not true. They're not true. Um, Again, my feelings are valid, but it's like those things are just not true. They don't have to be my story. And so I think the process of actually like taking those types of realizations and like integrating them into your life is a completely different thing. And I think that's what I was talking about, where like people think that like they're gonna acknowledge like, oh, I'm scared of intimacy, so that's why my relationships are failing. Like that's an easy one to just like use as an example. Like, but then they go to try, they're like, okay, I have intimacy issues because of this and that, I'm gonna go date now. And then they go to date and they're like confused why the same things are popping up. And then instead of making a different choice, they continue to do the same thing because they're like, no, that's so weird. I can't possibly do the thing that I'm supposed to do because that doesn't feel internally like I'm supposed to do it. Same thing with our thoughts, right? Like, oh, well, like the thoughts keep popping up. So, like, obviously they're true. Or, like, how can I make a different decision if my thoughts are still telling me the old thing? And I think there's this false narrative. And I think that's why they call it doing the work, is that it's really, really hard. Like, you're going to have to at some point make decisions that go against what feels like your natural instinct. So for me, that process started turning into like, okay, I obviously need to master my thoughts, like master my mind. I obviously have no control over what the fuck is going on in my head. There's some dark shit happening. So I need to get good at like removing myself, like having a moment to remove myself and evaluate like my thoughts, like what is happening. So for me, it started with developing the skill to just pause. Because I used to not even be able to pause. It was like someone would breathe the wrong way or say, like, that's like the perfect one. All the girls love to hear this. Like, so when you're talking about something you feel really passionately about, and then someone's like, that's interesting. And then to me, I'm like, oh my God, they like hate me. There's something wrong with me, you know, and I was defensive as fuck. I would like go off at people. I was so combative and like so confrontational, like at that point in my life, because I was just so hurt. And I believed that everybody was out to get me. So like for me, it was first developing the skill of like, we need to first learn how to master a pause. Like we need to be able to like calm our nervous system down enough to not react, right? So like that takes time. That takes skill. Like you can go to therapy, you can practice breath work, you can journal, you can do all of these different things, which is going to be different for everyone, but it's going to take time and you have to continue to be committed. So first it started like, okay, I messed up there. Oh, and then I did good there. I messed up there. I did good there. And I started getting better at like kind of quieting the ego. Like, you're fine. You don't need to defend yourself all the time. Not everybody's out to get you. Like, you start affirming and rewriting. And affirmations were really good for me in the beginning, like affirming what I didn't believe was true deep down, but like on paper knew to be true. Like, I am good enough. Not everybody's out to get me. You know, I'm more than capable of doing this. Like, it started there. And then the more I was able to master that pause, I was able to look at my options. Like, what do I want to do in this situation? I want to go off at someone. I want to like run away, whatever. What should I do? Like, what's actually going to get the desires of my heart? And I think that's maybe something tangible I can leave with people is like, if you're at a place where like you've mastered being able to at least like pause for a second, but you still keep making the wrong decisions, or you feel still like I'm violating my authenticity, but then you still aren't getting the results you want. I feel we can be self-aware enough to know like okay, this obviously isn't my authenticity if I like keep doing things that aren't getting me what I want. So like what false narrative do I keep making decisions from? And how can I shift it? And I think for me, that was like, what are my actual desires? Like, I want to be in a relationship with someone who treats me right. I want to have a successful company. If I date people that are emotionally unavailable, or I'm unable to like unattach myself from people that aren't there for me, I'm never going to be able to be in a relationship. So like, what hard decision do I have to make right now so that in the future I can be in a happy relationship? In those moments, especially for me, I really struggle. Like, I'll be like, but I want to fix this person. I want this person to choose me. I want this. It feels incredibly uncomfortable to abandon this situation. But like, if I'm really honest, I know that like deep down, my desire is to be in the relationship. So I have to make the choice that doesn't feel natural. Does that make sense? Or am I
Of
rambling
course.
now?
No, first of all, I'm a rambler as well, and I love a long story long. Like, don't ever
Okay.
spare the details. So I
I
love
think
it.
it's confusing. It's
No,
really confusing to explain. And I think
yeah,
it's really hard to like do this because it's a
it's more
practice of years.
confusing, I think, for you to explain than it is for us to understand, because it makes perfect sense, truthfully. Like, I understand exactly what you're saying. And as you're saying it, I can't help but also like my brain keeps going back to something, another thing that I say. So it's funny because we say a very similar thing differently. You call it ABC method and mastering the pause, and you talk about it like that. I always talk about it as autopilot living versus mindful living. So
Mm,
that mastering the pause is the mindful living that I always talk about. It's thinking before you speak. It's actually reflecting before attacking and saying, what do you actually think this person's intentions were here before being super defensive. So that mindful living for of my thing is your version of mastering the pause, as
totally.
opposed to that autopilot, which I always talk about, which is simply just you do what you've always done, so you get what you've always got, which is what you're saying. But I want to fix this person. I want to just do these same things that I always do. It's just doing what you're so used to doing and comfortable doing, even though it never gets you your desired result. It's just like, well, that's just who I am. That's just what I do. So I just keep doing this thing and I'm just on
Totally.
autopilot mode. So it's so interesting hearing you say it, because it's like we're one and the same. Like, we're saying
I
the
love
same
it.
thing, but in a different font, basically.
I love
And
that. I love that.
it's so important that people are able to take that pause, to take that moment, to live more mindfully and be able to make different decisions, and not only just about the choices that they make, but also just in general living consciously.
Yeah. I mean, and I really like that you talk about it too, because I think the narrative is that like this stuff should be easier. And I think it's easier said than done,
Yeah.
obviously. But I still think people do not understand that the uncomfortable choice, like uncomfortable, is an understatement. Like it's gonna feel like it's a violation of
Yeah.
like who you are, which is
Yeah.
why people stay stuck because they're like, wait, that can't be the right choice. That literally feels like I'm going to like die if I make that choice.
Like,
But
there's
again,
no way I would ever do
yeah,
that.
there's like literally like I remember there was like a point where like telling someone that I had like feelings for them felt like, oh my God, like so incredibly like painful in a way that was like, no, there's no way I'm supposed to do that. There's no way my gut or my mind or my body would be reacting this way if I was supposed to do that. But I
Yeah.
think it's coming to the realization that like the stuff we that becomes natural isn't always the healthy, actually authentically aligned for our desires choice. And that's
Yeah.
hard to grapple with. It's really, really hard.
Yeah, it really is. Everything that you just shared is so powerful. Like, I think there's so much to be taken away from that, and I think that I know that the girls are really going to love that. I do something on this show called the Dear Victoria segment, where I take submissions from my listeners and I offer them advice. And I had one come in that, as you're talking about all this mental health and how important it is to, live in, your truth and work on yourself and do the work, like you said. I got one that I think would be fabulous for you to
Oh, here
answer.
we go.
So let's get into it. I'm gonna ask you this now and go all in. Give them what you got, okay?
Okay, I'm ready.
All right, dear Victoria, or should I say, dear Hannah? Dear Victoria, I'm a teenage girl who struggles with comparison and jealousy. I have this friend who always makes hauls And even though I told her that it makes me and other girls jealous, she keeps doing it. I have also told her on many different occasions things that bug me that she does, and she always says sorry but continues to do it. For example, her hauls. Also, for example, putting guys before her girls, even though we've been friends for 7 years, and calling me names and pointing out my insecurities in front of other people. Please give me
Ugh.
advice.
Oh my gosh, this is so multi-layered. I feel like I'm going to address the first half and then I'll address the
Yeah,
second half.
yeah,
In
yeah.
the first half, in regard to hauls, I would challenge you. You are a teenager. Am I going to talk directly like
Yeah,
I'm talking to her?
let's keep in mind she's a teenager, okay?
Okay, if you're a teenager, one, so like this is hard work to do. Like so I'll keep it like I know how hard what I'm going to say is to do, and I think if you can figure this out at a younger age and continue to practice, this will save you a lot of tears in the future. There is nothing about these halls that says anything about you. And I think that I really struggled with this. I still do. I still do, honestly, all the time. Something will happen. Someone will do something that triggers me. And my question is always like, to react very negatively. Like my authenticity or quote unquote authenticity, my natural reaction is to be like, why are they doing this? It makes me feel bad. Or like, why are they doing this? There must be something wrong with me. And I think the reality is that like her hauls say nothing about you at all, or they shouldn't say anything about you. So I'd ask yourself a hard question, which is why are they affecting you so much if they're not about you? And I think that's like a really, really hard thing to ask yourself. So if you are even asking this question right now to Victoria, I would assume you are ahead already and that you have the bandwidth to be able to do that because people are going to do things that trigger you always, always. And it's going to get worse and worse and worse. And you have to be able to stand own and really ask yourself, like, why is this triggering me? It shouldn't. It has nothing to do with me. So if I would say that maybe look at that first because I don't know, like people are going to do dumb. I'm like, can I cuss to a teenager? I'm like, people are
Yeah,
going to do dumb shit that you do not like. You have to be okay with it. And it doesn't say anything about you or anybody else, like at all. Second part though, is that if you're telling your friend that she's hurting your feelings, I'm not sure you have a lot to stand on with the halls. Like, if she wants to do the halls, let her do the halls. You shouldn't be upset. But if she is calling you names, not showing up the way you need her to, and you are communicating your feelings in a healthy way out of love for her, and she's not doing that, there is nothing you can do but either deal with it or walk away. And I think a lot of times we want to like continue to tell people how they're hurting us and continue to want them to get better. And one of the hardest lessons that I'm still coping with at 28 is you have to let people do them. And it sucks. It's really painful. And in the process of that, you have to let go of people. And that's really hard. But in the long run, like we've said in this entire conversation, you have to make uncomfortable choices for your own true comfortability. And if your desire is to have friends who put you before guys they don't care about, or like random guys that come in and out, or to have friends who affirm you and lift you up, you have to be able to say no and let go of people who are not doing that. But I know
Mhm.
that's hard, really, really hard, especially as a teenager.
Yeah, it is hard. And I would like to piggyback on that because I always, I don't, this is not me tooting my own horn by any means because I don't know why I've always dealt with this, but I have had many friendships end over jealousy, over on the other end, over others being jealous of me. And I've always had a lot of jealous energy in my life where those friendships had to end for the sake of for me, like I'm putting myself in the shoes of the girl who does the hauls, where it's
Mhm.
like the more successful I became, the happier I became, the more they hated me,
Mhm.
and the more they took their jealousy and whatever other insecurities and issues that they were that they personally were having, they would take it out on me. And I
Mhm.
actually have a whole podcast episode about this. It's called like, I think it's called Jealousy is the Root of All Evil, because there's really, really terrible things that happen and come as a result of severe jealousy. And I talk about it because it's a very scary place to be in a friendship where you have a friendship with somebody who deep down just hates you because of these feelings. And
Mhm.
so what I would say, first of all, I echo everything that you just said because I agree with everything that you just said. So with that being said, with the hauls and your friend just like having fun and doing videos and maybe building success, if you're a genuine friend, like you should be happy for her. Like if anything, like telling if a friend said to me like doing your podcast or posting your content makes me feel insecure, I would be like, well, I can't help you there. Like, this is
Yeah.
like, I have to live for me. I can't live for you. So you have to work on that problem, not me. I don't have to live small just to fit in your bubble that you've created for me. Like that's not really my problem. So with that, I agree. And with the friend, I am not by any means defending a bad friend, because if she is calling you names, saying mean things to you in front of other people, embarrassing you, making you feel like, a certain way, choosing boys over you, whatever the case is, she might be starting to build up a resentment toward you because of you trying to hold her back, or you telling her, you bother me when you do this. So I'm not defending her, because I don't think that there's ever a reason for someone to be a bad friend. So I'm just, if I were to, play devil's advocate here, I would say that it may be because now there's this weirdness in your friendship, and I think maybe on both ends you're just not good friends for each other at this point. You may
Yeah.
be friends for 7 years, but history shouldn't be the reason why you stay friends with someone. A genuine connection and genuine happiness and love for each other is. So
Yeah.
you could be friends for a really long time, and as you grow, you just grow differently and you grow apart. And if your friendship is becoming toxic on both ends, like Han just said, like it's like you either deal with this and I guess you just remain friends for the history of it, or you decide it's time to walk away. And there have been
Yeah.
friendships I had to walk away from because they just were not healthy friendships. And, like we just said, you're a teenager. So I'm trying to like be as kind about this as I possibly can. But I do think that because you even listen to the show, like I'm 30 years old, like because you even listen to the show,
She's doing the work.
yeah,
She's
like
doing the work.
you have the emotional bandwidth of a more mature person. So I'm glad that you have acknowledged and you call yourself out for, like she says, like I struggle with comparison and jealousy, like the fact that you admit that is a great thing. The next step is to work on that. I think we all tend to compare ourselves to others, but I
Normal.
like to use comparison as a way to motivate me to, like, for myself to do better. So like if it were me and like I see my friend becoming successful, maybe she's growing on TikTok doing hauls, like I would start doing the same thing. Not to be like I copied my friend, but it'd be like that looks really cool. Like if you could do it, I want to do it too. And a genuine friendship would have the other person saying, I'm happy that you're starting to do it too. I'm loving it. You should try it out. Like it would motivate me and inspire me to want to be better and do more and so on and so forth.
Totally.
So, like,
No, I'm aligned with you. I think,
yeah,
like, obviously, like, this girl who's doing hauls, like, she's more unapologetic.
yeah,
Like, she feels very authentic, and maybe there's something that this gal who wrote in could do to, like, channel her authenticity.
yes,
And, like, the last thing I'll say is that, and this will be a lesson for the rest of your life, because this is just one of the most painful things that
yeah.
I am still having to work through, is that no one is responsible for your triggers. Like,
Ooh,
no one is responsible for how something makes you feel. That there's a big difference between someone being genuinely rude to you and like you having feelings versus someone doing something and it like impacting you on such a deep level. Like, they don't have no one has responsibility for your triggers. And I'm sure Victoria talks about this in relationships too. Like, I feel like told a girlfriend recently, like, her and her boyfriend were kind of butting heads, and I was like, you both are like getting mad at each other for a responsibility that is not each other's. Like, it is not someone else's job to self-soothe you or self-regulate you. Like, you need to be able to see something like someone doing a haul and feel that negative feeling of like, I'm jealous that she has these things. I'm jealous that she has the, I don't know, I guess, unapologetic vibe to her to do these hauls. Like, you need to be able to feel those feelings and be like, yeah, but like it's not her problem if I
Yeah.
feel those things.
Yeah.
And that's a hard skill to continue to like push through. But to Victoria's point, like if you're a self-aware queen, I'm assuming that you're already trying to work on this. So kudos
Yeah.
to you. But
Yes, I agree. I agree. And we send lots of love and wishing
yeah.
you the best. And any last words to wrap this up? Any last like zinger words of advice?
Ugh.
Because you have a lot of one-liners and little things, and I need one more to take us home before we go.
Oh my gosh. Ugh, I'm like, what? This is pressure now, like a mic drop moment. No, I think I'll just say like, you have like, I want to tell people, and this is the thing I tell everybody is like, this is all a part of the human experience. Like, it's deep, but it's not that deep either. Like, these things are really, really hard, but like, they don't define you as like a good enough person. Like to your question earlier about like detaching depression and anxiety from my identity, it wasn't this like I'm better than everybody else, therefore I was able to like heal from these things, it's a miracle, or like I'm able to implement this ABC method and the pause, therefore like everything has changed. Like this is like a real multi-year continual practice that challenges me every single day, and it's hard. And like this is just all kind of a part of the human experience, like fear, anxiety, depression, imposter syndrome, like it all. And you're not alone, for sure. For
Yeah.
sure.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much. Where can
Thank
all of the girls
you.
find you, connect with you? What do you got for them?
Yes. Okay. So follow me on How Han Sees It, literally everywhere, for just like more of my lifestyle content, like the behind the scenes of like the entrepreneurial journey, my chaos schedule, fashion inspo, my styling videos. And then if you want more mental health, more healing journey, more everything, more unapologetic realness, definitely check out the podcast, How I See It. It's on Spotify and Apple, and Instagram is How I See It Pod.
Thank you so much for being on. This episode was amazing. You're amazing.
Yay.
For those
Thank
of you
you.
listening, we have our episode on How I See It coming out the day after this one is launched. So by the time that you're listening to this, it'll probably be out, but it's coming out one day later. So make sure to check that
Yay.
out.
Thank you so much.
Bye.